What if I were to tell you that in this urban Chicago garden, we grow 90% of our produce year-round? We wanted fresh, organic, affordable produce all year. So when we created this garden, we created it in a way that it was a series of structures, systems, and then the system holistically, right, as a whole, that created this. I guess the best way to describe it is an ecosystem that produces nearly all of our produce every year, year-round. So when we started to design our garden, we had to take a little bit different approach, maybe a different approach than most people, especially considering our garden, again, is in urban Chicago. So we have a lot of things to deal with. We don't have an acre. So we had to get really smart about how we design the garden. And one of the first things we did is we just utilized things that had worked in other places. The raised beds, we have 4 of them, are really the cornerstone of our garden. These 4 raised beds produce tons of food. You really could think about it like each of these raised beds, along with some help from our perennial garden and our grow bags, produce enough food for 1 adult. How we do that is we use really intense planting techniques. One of our favorite intense planting techniques is square foot gardening. Square foot gardening is just a system where you have certain types of vegetables that you want to grow, and each one of those you have a little guide that tells you how many per square foot you can grow. We utilize that along with other forms of intense planning, vertical. If you haven't seen the episode on the structures, we utilize vertical as well to get as much as we can out of this. And a component that you might have noticed here are these, what looks probably to some of you like black irrigation tubing. And you're right, it is. It also serves another important purpose though. They also provide a structure for us, a plan, if you will, since they're each a square foot roughly, and then they water the garden. So we're not spending time out here worrying about watering things. If something needs a little extra water, those are the only things that we're hand watering here. And we could, utilize maybe this bed over here in one way, and then in another way, up here with this taller trellis, we could be growing heirloom, big, indeterminate tomatoes. While maybe like you see back here, we could be growing peas. And then in the front part, we've got our greens and lettuce. We've got peppers in here. There's gorgeous bell peppers in here. We've got tons of green onions, mustard greens, chard. And of course, as you can see here, grow bags are a huge part of our garden. We've got, I don't know, probably 20 bags going right now. And these cabbages here are a great example of how you can move them around, as the sunlight changes. Also a great place to plant potatoes, something that takes up a lot of space and you'd have to dig up your garden. These are great because you can just pick up these handles here. So for potatoes, we just pick them up and dump them in a wheelbarrow and harvest them that way. So huge component of our garden. Not sure what we do without grow bags. A key component of our garden ecosystem are perennials. And this is our perennial garden. These beautiful fronds that you see are about 50 crowns of asparagus. And the beauty of perennials and why it's a key component of our gardening system is because once you plant these crowns and they start to mature and they start to produce, you can harvest every year for 15, maybe even 20 years. So perennials in general, key component of our garden. Obviously, they need their own space because you're not going to be planting them every season or once a year. These are here for a long time. We've also got some strawberries that we're trying in back. This is a huge component of our garden. The asparagus are beautiful, and if you've never had fresh asparagus, it's nothing like you've had in the store. So this is going to be amazing and a big part of producing 90% of the produce that we eat. This greenhouse allows us here in urban Chicago to keep growing food no matter the weather. This big U-shaped bed here in our greenhouse is what gives us the ability to weather the Chicago winters and gives us an edge to grow year-round. With short seasons for gardening, this is a key to our gardening success. We're able to protect delicate veggies here, like this time in our fall season, when we're actually getting extremes, colds, then it'll get warmed up. We can actually even that environment off in this greenhouse and keep things like this luscious dill that is just flourishing in here and is starting to flower from a little bit of warmth the other day. All of this basil that we just can't seem to harvest enough.
Yesterday there was sun and there was rain, beauty in the mundane. And as the light startled our eyes, we let go of disguise. And now there's something in the air and a sparkly shimmer on our skin, restoring everything within. Oh, dreamy, breezy, we go easy, easy on our tiptoes.
This is how we built a small urban garden that produces 90% of our produce, and you can too. Ready to grow your own fresh produce? Subscribe for more urban gardening tips.